Welcome. This segment will help you understand the basics of VBRD and see how these guiding principles can be used to help adults and youth easily adapt to desired behaviors. According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, a virtue is an habitual and firm disposition to do the good. It allows the person not only to perform good acts, but to give the best of himself. The virtuous person tends toward the good with all his sensory and spiritual powers. He pursues the good and chooses it in concrete actions. The goal of a virtuous life is to become like God. We can all think of habits. Some are good, and some of which are not so good, and we're not so proud. How long does it take to cultivate a habit? Some experts say 30 days, some say 21 consecutive days. But with virtue, I believe you can work on one for a year by prayerfully asking God what habit would draw you closer in cooperation with His divine plan for your life. God will give you one or two that might surprise you. Most of us want patience, and while patience is a good and perhaps very worthwhile virtue to cultivate, maybe there's something more that God has in mind. Spend time quietly reflecting on this question. You will know it is working when others recognize it in you, so your actions will bear fruit around you. Virtue is always for the good of the person and the good of those around us. It is always rooted in goodness. Anything else may be defined as a vice, which is a habit we should try to change for the better. The first principle challenges us to simply live better lives. You will know if this work bears fruit when others begin to see the change in you and you notice a change in your relationships with others. This will require prayer, journaling, and a deeper commitment to the sacramental life. This can be done in small groups, in homes, or in other arranged settings. Journal about the changes that happen in you and in others around you when you practice your virtue. You are looking for observable improvements. Tracking this will help you to stay on track, and you may be asked to share your progress with others. And a journal is a valuable record that can be very helpful. Cultivating a language of virtue in your building or your home is to cultivate a place of unconditional love. If you see someone acting for the good of self and others, recognize the action with a genuine compliment. This is much richer than complimenting someone's clothing or possessions. Compliment their virtue specifically. For instance, "Hey Tom, I saw that you kept cool when things got heated up the other day. Way to practice patience and temperance. I appreciated the way you handled the students, and I think they did too." Circles should be an ongoing practice for adults. They allow others to feel heard and to listen. This kind of relational presence is critical to the work we will do with restorative practices. So the equity we establish with this first foundation of virtue will determine how successful we are overall in implementing VBRD. This third principle is the hardest to live. How many times do our thoughts wander toward criticism and judgment of others? Begin to reflect on your own tone of voice and the tone of your conversations with others. Would they say you are encouraging and positive, or are you a negative influence on others? Training your thoughts is perhaps the toughest of holy habits to foster. Simply refuse to give life to negative thinking. Just imagine the great dignity and honor assigned to each of us by God. Who are we to deny that honor and goodness by negative thinking? When we gossip, the Catechism says we commit sins of detraction. We are diminishing the good name given by God to that person. Let's commit today to refusing to begin or participate in critical judgment and unchristian behavior. Let's encourage that in others. Refuse to listen. You can decide as a group to have a code to stop it when it comes up. Something like, let's change the subject. This is simply the most encouraging thing you can do to evangelize others. Just imagine if our churches were filled with people who did not gossip or ignore others. I wonder if they'd be overflowing with people wanting to be there because the people there were overflowing with God's love for one another. In restorative practices, when we address harm, we need to do 3 things. First, find out what happened, make things as right as possible, and then guarantee a better future. Relationships are the highest priority, and we nurture relationships through prayer and virtue. Seeing the goodness, addressing the harm, allowing those at fault to return to goodness will shape holiness for all parties, students, staff, and parents. God wants us to be as forgiving as He is with us, and virtue can help us with that challenge. If there is a problem at home or at school, we can simply ask which principle was forgotten and what will be done to make things as right as possible. This gives the harmer a way to own the behavior and own the solution. For your reflection, answer this question. How can these principles be helpful in maintaining holiness and order here? Where should these principles be posted? Write a plan for getting started in adopting these principles with adults and with young people. After you've had some time to quietly reflect, share your thoughts with those around you. Thank you.